Hello, hello, hello. It's Monday and I'm just beyond excited because amazing human Frances is with me. How are you, Frances?
I'm really good. I'm feeling really energized as well. I look a bit strange because I've got my thingy bob plugged in there, but tech's not I'm really good at some other things. But tech isn't like one of them. Well, not bad.
You're good at
Hopefully
loads of
it'll
things.
work.
I know that. It's working perfectly. Thank you for joining me today in this sort of crazy exploration of what's on our heart and mind, sort of right here, right now in the moment, which is the whole pretense of this show. Obviously, I've got to know you a little bit and even contracted your services in the past. But by the way, amazing coach. Get in touch with Frances. Little plug.
Thank you.
As we get going, people are going to get to know more about you. I'm sure we'll have some friends join us as well, Frances. But just let me know right now, in this moment, what's on your heart and mind.
Well, I'm a bit sort of energized this morning, so I've just been doing some Monday morning chat with my lovely community here. Amazing. I've been chatting to my business partner, Simon, this morning about better, bolder, braver stuff. So that always gets me in a very happy place, as does the Happy Startup School. So brilliant. And I'm all right, just juggling it all the time. What about you, Gary? I'm just so excited to speak to you. It's been a while since we've had a good old chinwag, hasn't it? How are you?
No, it has been. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. I've got this. We moved home, my wife and I, fairly recently. And I've got this really lovely glow that comes through the window, but it makes me look a little bit angelic. And you know me well enough, I'm not angelic at all. But it does always give me this weird glow. And I've tried lights and all sorts of things. It's really bizarre. But I'm doing well. And I'm just, do you know what I'm really excited about right here, right now? I'm really excited about connection and community. Because I feel like everywhere I look, people are sort of feeling more and not just thinking as much. And the amount of community I'm seeing pop up, community here, community there, it just really feels like this rampant desire for connection and community. I just feel it everywhere I look. And it's just, that excites me. It really excites me. That's where I'm at. Thank you.
Yeah. I love the term rampant desire. Everyone's like, gotta get into the community quick. Oh, hi, Chris. What's he saying?
Welcome, Chris. Good to be with us.
Fantastic. Glad Chris is here. That means everything is going to get much more jazzy. Fabulous. Yeah, I'm totally with you. I don't know if it's a sign of the times that everyone's just really gagging to get back. Hi, Carlos. Back into the swing of connecting with things. Or I don't know. I mean, it's probably loads of things, isn't it? Where we are in the universe right now. We're all just at a place where connection feels good. I can feel an intergenerational thing coming up at some point in this conversation. Like, why is our generation so keen to be connecting right now? Should we talk about that? Oh my gosh, you're going to have to rein it in, Gary.
Get going. But Chris, always love Chris's going rapid. Thank you very much for leaving the you out, Chris. Much appreciated. YouTube did not kick you off.
Yeah, good one. Nice.
So Frances, tell us, come on, I'm just really fascinated, right, with this new venture that you've come across. I can't believe that you've not even mentioned it yet. Come on, plug away. Better, bolder, braver. Tell us more about it. Where did this kernel of imagination come from?
Oh, well, I mean, we can talk about that because you've been, I guess, along for the whole ride since we met. But the small plug is that Better, Bolder, Braver is a new, original and very exciting community specifically for coaches, the people helpers. My business partner, Simon, and I have been designing this space, which is both there to help coaches have some inspiration about what good marketing looks like, but also provides space for people to reflect on how marketing is making them feel. So we've been told, because I'm very excited to say, are the last people to feature on the Association for Coaching's current podcast series, which is about boosting your coaching business. We are the last people to feature on their podcast, which we recorded last week, which is super exciting. We're told that what we're doing is very original. There's a lot of very, very useful, but I'll say noise out there about how to do marketing. And what we've realized is that, true to me, Gary, that's all very well, but how is that making you feel? How does it feel to be putting yourself out there? You know, we're all just overwhelmed with information about what we could be doing. And my point of interest is that overwhelming? Is that useful? How are we actually feeling about that? And then how do we repurpose those feelings to not only put ourselves out there with purpose, with vision, with conviction, with confidence, but how is it serving us back? So how is putting yourself out there and talking to people about what you want to do going to be coming back at you in terms of good energy that's going to make whatever it is that you're trying to achieve sustainable? And I definitely want to pivot this back to kind of where you're at and what you're trying to do. And maybe you can also talk about, you know, your agenda and how talking to people about it is serving you in terms of the energy.
I just love, like, I've got my little hairs on my head. They're only little, just popped up again. Why? Because you are role modeling, right? You are role modeling the work you do. And that's when I get super excited about having people like you on this show, because you're not even, you know, you're not selling, you're not pitching at me. You are literally just asking beautiful, caring, in the moment questions because you're curious and you want me to do well. You want me to show up as a whole human. You want, like, and that's what you do with every question you ask. You blow my mind. So thank you for that. To answer your question, Francis, I love what you're doing. There's a reason why I love what you're doing. I'm in sales, as you know. A lot of people don't always realize this guy, Gary's in corporate still. Yeah. Greasy corporate, 3.5 billion turnover corporate, 20 million worth of sales. Me selling myself? Sorry, what? Me going out and saying that I really care about A, B, and C, human-centered design. I can help you add value to your business through workshops. Like I have added millions to my organization, Francis. But for me to package that up, go into the market as sell Gary, it's a far more different prospect. Somebody else's product, easy. Myself, completely different. And I'll be honest with you, I navigate and I fall between that so often. Like sort of side hustle Gary and corporate Gary. And I find quite often that like looking at side hustle Gary is far more scary than the corporate Gary. So I tend to sort of step back into corporate Gary a lot more, which is sort of where we went to with our session previously. But that's my in the moment reply to your question. Like, you're giving away way too much live on every platform, but hey, that's what it's for.
So I'm going to try and, I kind of, because it's me, I want it to be about you, and I'm interested in why you're calling it a side hustle. Hi, Heather. So you're talking about you, the Gary who was the vulnerable guy, and now I'm interested to know if that still represents. You're talking about it being a side hustle, but why don't you tell people what it is that you're trying to achieve from the inside? What's that sort of bigger picture vision that you've had bubbling away in terms of how you want to change things in the world that you are trying to do whilst wearing a corporate hat?
Golden Bennett. I feel like I'm getting a live session for free here. I'm feeling a bit naughty. Send me an invoice, Francis. No, but again, it's a brilliant question, right? Because I often fall off the self-worth wagon from the point of view of like whole Gary. To answer your question, is someone that worked in the chemical industry, cares about sustainability, believes deeply in the power of vulnerable leadership to connect and to drive performance through whole human beings. And I've got the performance benefits of doing that. So like I've got all of this package that would be very compelling for pretty much any leader if I went out and pitched it in the way I just described it to you. But I so very rarely do because I'm so noisy. Back to the point you made earlier, which is really interesting, is trying to project in a way that I think is useful and helpful is probably one of the biggest barriers, because you spend a lot of time up here and less time sort of doing or testing or experimenting. So that's sort of where I am with it all. It's like really clear, big vision, know the difference I'm going to try and make from within the chemical industry, but also outside, driving both an improved health of the workplace, ultimately, through vulnerable leadership and more human-centered design, but don't very often pull that together in a way that's coherent.
So in the last 6 months that I've been friendly with you, I've seen a lot of activity. So you're doing your day job. I think a lot of what people are going through at the moment, and I'm definitely one of them, is that sort of I was talking about it this morning with Simon, you know, the entrepreneur's conundrum. Do you have to stop what you're doing in order to do something meaningful? What's the value of being able to do something meaningful from another perspective, from a, you know, that's the corporate world? You know, I think a lot of people have to think about that. Are they going to take a massive leap in order to do something that they think is really important? Or can they sort of have a coexistence going on where they you know, are not only having to do a job because it pays, but how can that job actually be meaningful in that sort of bigger picture vision that they have? And what I love about what you do is that you've taken this job that you have, which, you know, you've decided you're going to continue to do for a time, unless I'm wrong, but you're also, you have this other vision, you have this amazing idea, which is that you can inform change around sustainability because of the knowledge that you have in the community within your job, within your corporate job. But I'm really interested in what it's doing for you on a day-to-day basis to actually have that sort of duality, that coexistence. You know, I'm imagining getting a lot of energy from the work that you do around the vulnerability stuff, the sustainability stuff on Clubhouse, you know, holding these brilliant conversations, this series, fantastic series of kind of emergent chat. But at the same time, you're sort of doing the corporate thing, and it'd be really interesting to hear from you. Sorry, it's turned into like I'm interviewing you. But, you know, this is what turns me on. It's like I'm really, really intrigued about, you know, how putting yourself out there in one way is bringing something back to you that means that you can do the other thing with a lot more energy than you might have done if you weren't doing the two things at once.
It's really interesting. And I do want to flip this back to being about you, because again, I hope that what people see in this conversation is the generosity with which Frances leads.
It's called deflection.
No. It's generosity, because you are always thinking, right, how can I support? How can I serve? How do I make sure that, you know, I'm supporting you the best way I can? So thank you for it. I really appreciate it. But I do want to come back to you.
Yeah. No, but we can talk about that, because why do people do that? Why do they flip stuff? What's going on? Am I trying to avoid something? Am I? Or actually is what comes from you back to me in terms of the answer about what I've just asked you really serving me? Yes, it is. Okay, let's have your answer.
Yeah. Do you know something? Well, it is all of that, isn't it? If we want to get deep and woo-woo, and I'm sure Carlos and I can have a chat about this offline again at some point. We had a great first chat. Thank you for connecting us, Frances. Like, it is all the same thing. So of course we're all reflections of each other. Like, goes without saying if we acknowledge that. But I think to answer your question, which I'm trying to remember what it was now, that's it, the duality piece. So what's really interesting though, and I want to weave this back into the work that you're doing about feeling, like how do you support your clients who are coaches feel, you know, feel the way they want to feel about their business, right? So to answer your question, I feel more alive in the last 3 months. Bearing in mind I've been in the same corporate job for 12 years than I have done in many, many years. And the reason being, and this is really interesting. So one of the round tables I held across sector and across function within the chemical industry, so I had global sustainability leads, heads of HR, heads of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the same space, just sharing knowledge, what works, what doesn't within the industry. I literally came off a call before we jumped on here within my own work organization. And my work organization is now asking me to host a roundtable as part of our own organizational change towards digitalization. So your questions are really interesting for me today, because I don't always see, and this is why, go and recruit Frances. This is why you need a coach. No, but genuinely, this is why you need a trusted advisor, a trusted third party in your world, because I'm connecting dots that I know are within me, but aren't always visible because I'm too busy doing, projecting, working or whatever. And that is why it's so critically important to have someone like Frances, you know, in your camp. Because thank you for the questions, Frances. That's where I'm at with it. Is I'm actually in a really good whole person space, but my bias, my head kicks in, and goes, oh God, I'm not doing enough of the stuff I want to be. Oh God, there's too much inequity. I get lost in the big picture sometimes. But actually just coming back to, as you've helped me realize, actually you're doing some really good, important work. Those little baby steps are going to add up to something. And that's all you can do right now. Like, it doesn't matter what the end is. Got no control over it. Doesn't matter what just happened. Got no control over it. Like, what are the steps you're going to take right now? So thank you for, so I want to come back to you. How does any of this conversation so far feed into the work that you're doing or that you want to be doing more of with your clients?
Yeah, so I mean, what I think you're talking about is several things, but what's coming up is this idea of giving yourself permission. You talk about the bigger picture as well, and you said you get lost in the bigger picture, but actually the bigger picture, thanks Chris, is that thing that is not the minutiae. The bigger picture is how what you're doing on a day-to-day basis is serving that bigger energy that you represent. And then what else is coming up that's relevant to what we do at Better, Bolder, Braver? The idea of a mirror, the idea that we're all holding up mirrors to each other, but also to ourselves. What I really get excited about is the idea of learning about yourself from the way that you converse with people, the questions that you ask. This is a demonstration, this conversation of how you and I vibe off each other, because in the questions that I ask you, I am getting stuff back. And we're really lucky, Simon and I, because coaches are an audience that are very warm to what it is that we're trying to deliver to them. They're very creative, hyper intelligent beings who are out there to help other people. So we've narrowed down to an audience that we want to help, that are already very warm to what it is that we're trying to do, which is to invite them to hold a mirror up to themselves and say, what's going on when you're trying to put out there some message about what you're trying to give people, or what you represent, and it feels really icky, it feels really strange, like what's happening there? And these are people who know how to ask the right questions of themselves. The irony is that the best of us are great at asking questions to other people, but not so great at doing that to ourselves. So I think that sort of hyper awareness, that consciousness, that is, how am I kind of showing up in, whether it's business meetings or my kind of big agenda for making positive change in the universe, how is that then reflecting back on how I'm treating myself and sort of what I'm trying to do and achieve for myself every day. And I think when you say to me, thank you, I think what's actually happening is that you're like, oh yes, there is a level of kindness that I could probably be employing here with myself a bit more, because it's that sort of friction between, it, and the vulnerability stuff is very much there, and you talk about it a lot, but at the same time you're trying to sort of do that for yourself, and you've had this amazing life experience, haven't you, which kind of always serves to just bring everything back to the moment. And you can choose whether or not you allude to that here, because it's your story, not mine. But for me, what your story represents is, that happened. Okay, so life is pretty delicate, and now is pretty delicate, and yes, it's about me as well as it's about lots of things around me. That's what's coming up when you're reflecting back on me about my questions, which is very kind.
I just want to hold space, but that phrase a second. I've not ignored Perry Timms, my good friend, has asked a brilliant question.
I can't read. I can't read it.
Which I'll come back to in a second. But I think that phrase is really beautiful. You just shared, life is delicate. Like, do we not? Do I not? I want to keep coming back to me because it's my comment here. We can believe it's so rigid. Yeah, there is a table. Yeah, there's a laptop I'm talking to you through. There's a microphone. But like, literally, like, if you think about it, it really doesn't matter in the end, really. Like, life is so delicate. Like, it's an in the moment, like, shift. But it's also hilarious that we can get so locked in our heads. I've got so locked in my head. Well, and I will share a bit of the story very, very quickly. So yeah, bullied as a kid, 12, 13, self-harmed, failed marriages, a whole range of different things that we all have our own version of growing up. But I think I think part of, and I want to share Perry's question, actually. It's a really good question. So Perry's asked, Gary, if I may, what do you back yourself with? And it's just a really, really good question, because I think if I'm going to answer that question, I'd probably say, I don't think about that very consciously that often. Do you know, I'd probably say communities. It's community and friendships, of which Francis is a key part of that. It's, I get so much energy and vibration and growth because of conversations like this. And that, if I'm honest with you, that's it. That's really the biggest driver for me, is if we can learn one thing from each other or take away a challenge or something, then I guess that is my backing, Perry, is I back myself with community. I back myself with other human beings. That may not be answering the question. I don't, if there's anything else you want to add or build, please do, Perry. But yeah, that's where I am with it. Really, Francis, is I just loved that, life is delicate. And I think the more playful we get, like I struggle sometimes with playing. Like life is just a playground, right? Like it's not a fixed thing, just a playground. Yeah, I hold on to it so bloody tightly sometimes.
Yeah, I know. And it's also, I mean, recently, as people like Chris and Carlos and Simon will know, I have 2 kids under the age of 4, and I've just started a business, and I've got a part-time job, and there's all sorts of other things going on, and sometimes you have to relinquish control, because there's only so much you can actually control. But Simon made me giggle this morning because we were talking about something. He came up with this brilliant phrase, which is organizational gubbins, and there isn't enough attention paid to this kind of very important currency, which is organizational gubbins. And I think that's going on for me today as well, because you're constantly trying to juggle everything, aren't you? And you sort of say, well, I've got to do this and I've got to do that and I've got to be this person here and I've got to be able to do that. And then there's all this organizational gubbins going on, and not enough people are paying enough attention to the amount of time, energy, potentially money, and maybe emotional trauma that's involved in organizational gubbins. And like being kinder to yourself and creating space in whatever way you can is, and also just saying, is the organizational gubbins that I'm having to engage with today really necessary in the bigger picture of what I'm trying to do, or really necessary in the bigger picture of I'm just trying to survive because I've got 2 children under 4? But can you remove some of the organizational gubbins? I love that. I love the idea of just, and it goes alongside that whole thing of breathing, breathe, but also, let's eliminate some organizational gubbins every day. What's that practice look like for you?
Cool. I love it. Organizational governance, Simon. High five for that one, mate. That's brilliant. Organization. Well, do you know something? I'm going to partly answer the question. Perry kindly came back after I replied on his what do you back yourself with? Yeah, backing yourself with connections, other people that help you and realize things about the world. And this is the point, right? To answer the point about organizational gubbins, right? What is that? That is stuff created by human beings that gets congealed and wrapped into stuff that we start to believe is fact, or is a process that actually we believe to be so rigid that no one would dare challenge it through fear of their job. It's just a load of mind games that gets wrapped up and wrapped up and wrapped up. The reality is, how much of that stuff is real and true? Pretty much none of it. But we need people like you, Francis, in our world to be able to be the mirror, whether it's hold up the mirror, whether it's be the mirror. But like, how many people in an organizational setting, or maybe that are going to be your future clients, are even aware that organizational gubbins exists, or even personal gubbins? Let's go personal gubbins, Simon. Like how much of that gubbins that we're dealing with day in, day out needs to be there, or is it just we've agreed that that's normal for us, so we'll just keep hold of it?
Thank you for reining it back in. Yes, Simon and I, what we're trying to do is help people to remove organizational gubbins from this kind of misconception about what good. Thank you. Very simple way to go with it. Less gubbins is the way to go. Thank you, Simon. We are trying to remove both the actual practical organizational gubbins from your businesses as coaches, but we are also very much trying to remove the myth that is what good marketing looks like. There's a lot of organizational gubbins going on there, but also the emotional stuff as well. So much gubbins oh my God, stop saying you know these words when you say it loads and then it starts sounding really weird, or when you write something down and then you read it and you're like, that's a really strange word. I remember I used to have that with the letter J when I was younger. If I wrote J enough times, I'd be like, that's such a weird letter. Anyway, I haven't even had a second coffee. I said I mustn't have a second coffee before I speak to Gary, otherwise it's just, yeah. What else? Next,
I want to know, other people want to know, either live with us or when they watch this back potentially, you know, what are you and Simon up to with the new business? Are you holding workshops?
do you want to know where we're up to?
Going on?
Okay, yeah,
tell us what services you're offering.
Well, it is very organised. We're at a very organised place, but we also very much are encouraging people to know that they're human beings and that it doesn't have to be really organised. It doesn't have to be really premeditated. You can kind of ebb and flow, change, move course. It helps sometimes to have some consistency, but you know, we are all human. So where we're at right now is that, in fact, today we are having a nice chin wag with our brand manager. We have someone who is helping us to come up with our visual identity. So that's exciting because that's going to be a thing next Monday. We've done a lot of stuff already, and you'll see, as Simon calls it, we've put beach towels down on all of the social media platforms. Nice. What we do hasten to add is that the only reason we're on all of the social media platforms is because we kind of have to be, because people might find us there and we're doing this sort of what good marketing looks like stuff. However, I just want to caveat that you do not have to be on every single social media platform. And I definitely don't like all of them. I'm not going to name drop the ones I like less because that's not very nice. But there's some like LinkedIn that I feel much more happy to be hanging around in. But we're already on all the social media platforms, so you can find us in all the usual places. But our brand identity is really going to make that look fabulous, hopefully, next Monday. And then we open the doors to anyone that has signed up to hear more next Friday. Well, I think that's right, Simon, you can probably correct me on the date. I think it's the 17th, 16th of July. So maybe that's in 3 Fridays. And then the Monday after that, we will open the doors to people who have not pre-expressed an interest, in case they're sort of lurking and a bit scared. And the reason being, we want to give 50 people a kind of founding member rate. So anyone who's signing up now gets the earlier invitation to become a founding member. So that's all the technical stuff. What's going on in the community, which is far more interesting, is that every day there's going to be an activity for our members. So on a Monday, we will be holding masterclasses, which are going to be a similar vibe to this, where you'll get to see us in conversation with someone who might be someone from what we're calling our marketing family, which is to say an expert in a particular discipline within the marketing world. You might be hearing from a coach who will be talking openly and honestly about their relationship and their experience with their marketing. And that's something that we hope will serve everyone, because they'll get the opportunity. Thanks, Simon. Friday, the 16th, waitlist, early access, and then Monday, the 19th of July is the full launch. So we're a few weeks away from that. I'm just getting really excited. And then on Tuesday, we're going to have tips and tricks. So we're going to give people some really tangible lessons in something, which they can then go away and practice. Wednesday is our sort of day where we're going to be sharing with the community in the form of blog posts. We're going to be demonstrating, as you said at the beginning of this, how we think you can do stuff. And we're going to be putting out content inside and out of the community for people to digest and reflect on. Thursday is the thinking day. It's that space to reflect on what you're doing and go really deep in small groups within the community to kind of share and celebrate each other's achievements and be there to hold each other's hands when things aren't going so well. And Friday, we're going to encourage our community members to kind of big up each other, be posting about what they're doing. It's sort of a accountability day, and there will be some other accountability moments during the week where you can co-work with people, and the idea is that as a as a sole trader, as it were, as a coach, you might have had a previous life where, you know, you might have been in the corporate world, you might have had a professional family, and now you find yourself as a coach fully qualified, you know, be that in terms of an actual qualification, accreditation, or that you have a whole life behind you that qualifies you and or to become a coach. But then suddenly you're on your own, and like, what does that on your own actually feel like, and how might it dampen the energy that you might have to do your marketing, to put yourself out there, to work well with clients? How much better might it be if you are in working alongside other coaches, sharing ideas, possibly even collaborating? So we're at very early days. We'll see how it goes. That our community members will very much sort of give back to us an idea of what else we need to do. But these are our early thoughts about what that coaching community might look like. How does that land with you?
I love it. I love it. And I'm part of a number of communities, as you know, and I think that the thing that I've become more and more aware of, Francis, to be honest, and what you and Simon seem to be nailing, is it's great to talk and to share, but what do you do with that? And what you clearly are building into your design is an actionable way of doing something with all of that great community and learning and sharing and understanding, but then actually bloody doing something, no matter how uncomfortable that might feel, with the support of you and Simon. And I just think that's a really important linch key to a lot of communities I'm part of. Like, they're wonderful, they're great melting pots, but not a lot changes generally. And that's fine. There's no judgment of that. If that's what you need, that's perfect. But if you want to actually do something with the community learning, you need something like what you're creating. So it lands brilliantly. And yes, Simon, yes, Francis, you've got me getting a little bit tempted. So
oh, good. I hope it's more than a little bit tempted. You've reminded me. There's a journey as well. So as well as like week by week, we're providing a space for really good work to be emerging. We also are designing an accelerator course at the moment, but also a kind of self-service offering for people to work on in a different way. And we talk about a marketing journey. There's actual step-by-steps, sort of start here, then go there, then go there, then go there, which we hope will help people feel contained in some sort of direction in terms of what they might do in their marketing. But we're also on a week by week basis going to be we're curating what we do from the Monday masterclass to the emotional space holding, to reflect week by week a particular theme in that marketing journey. So we're constantly trying to demonstrate and embed in our members a way of practicing marketing, as it were, so that they become well versed in a particular narrative, in a particular journey, and a flow that will help them to get from a place of just, I don't know, and I feel really unconfident and I'm angry about the idea of having to put myself out there because I've got all these great ideas about what I want to do, but I just feel really uncomfortable and icky, to, you know, being able to speak fluently, play. I'm thinking of a piano and how, you know, your muscle memory in your hands means that if you learned a piece of music 30 years ago, you can still play it because your hands remember how to do it, even though you wouldn't have a first clue about how to read music now. But it's that sort of sense of, I know what I'm going to do because it just is going to happen. We want people to get to that place of like not having to, I don't like the term overthinking. We're not going to go down a whole rabbit hole now about, well, maybe we will just briefly. I'll tell you why I don't like the phrase overthinking, because obviously you can't choose. Well, you can exercise boundaries in your thinking. And I think what people mean when they say don't overthink things is you have a choice now. You can carry on thinking about this in the way that you are, or you can start to think about it in a different way. And this is a recent revelation for me, because when people used to say that to me, I used to think, and this is, you know, potentially quite embarrassing to admit, but I used to think, are you not intelligent enough that you can keep up with me? Is that the point? You want me to stop because you can't keep up? That's not what I think people mean. I think people mean this is noisy for me, and or you're giving yourself a headache because you're thinking about this to such a degree. And my invitation to you is, why don't you just stop thinking about it in that way or to such a degree and start choosing what it is that you focus your energies thinking about. So I'd love to help people do that a bit more in terms of their marketing.
There's a couple of questions that have come up, and I'm conscious that we've gone to 30.
Yeah, we've gone.
This is flow. No, but this is a real life example of flow. That's 35 minutes of our life, and time expands. Yeah, time expands. Hopefully, when you're having a good time. But I've got a couple of questions for you. But before I get to those, and I want to keep this as interactive as we can. What I took away is your description, Frances. There's something about you helping your clients embody the messaging and the service that they're offering to whoever they're approaching.
Yes,
that's what it feels like. It feels like you're supporting the embodiment. And the reason I'm picking up on that, again, the mirror thing, is I'm talking a lot about embodying change versus just talking about change at the moment. But let me come to the questions. First of all, hello, Zena. Good to see you. Zena's asking you, Frances, how about helping coaches to find their niche? Is that something you do? Is that
that's probably lesson number 1. That's early on. Simon will be able to say whether it is lesson number 1 or not. No, it's very much an early lesson for us. And in fact, if you listen to the Association for Coaching podcast, which we recorded last week and which is going to go out on the 5th, this is why I'm getting so confused about all my dates, which I will send a link round to in due course, and maybe Gary or I can remember to tag you in something, Zena. You will hear that what we talk about quite a lot is niching, because something that we care very much about is getting people to pivot this idea, which is niching is cutting off your nose to spite your face, right round to, if you're able to really focus on one audience, firstly, it makes talking to people a lot easier because you can be that much more focused in what you're saying. But also, it's only going to serve you better to continually think about who you would like to work with, because of the way that they are going to bring a good energy back to you. So niching is such a multifaceted process. And it's very much something that we focus on quite early on. Lots of coaches will feel uncomfortable about having to rest on one particular target audience. The other thing I just want to mention is that you don't have to do anything forever. You can just decide to focus on an audience for a certain time until that evolves in its own organic way as well, and then it's fine to kind of change direction. But the idea is that if you can constantly think about the kind of audience that you want to be having conversations with, and another thing I just want to make sure I've said before we leave off is that marketing, I think, is about having conversations. No one's looking to stand on a soapbox and shout about what it is that they're doing, because I think we all know that doesn't necessarily work. Good marketing is like good coaching. It's about finding questions that are going to resonate with people and inviting them to engage with you and sort of feed back to you what it is that they're going through, so that you can better understand, better serve them. It's the basis of all good things, good questions and listening. So that's good marketing. But niching very much all over it. I'd love to talk to you about it another time, Zena.
Yeah, Zena, please do connect with Frances. I'll just pop Frances. So Frances is LinkedIn. You can find it and pop back on the recording from here. And of course, you've got the website for Simon and Frances. I do want to acknowledge everyone that's joined us and take the final questions. So thanks to Perry, Chris, to Carlos, to Simon, to Zena. You'll really appreciate the engagement today. It's been really, really, really lovely to have you all here. But I do want to finish up with your good friend Chris, who always has a good question. And I think this is a great question.
Oh, yeah.
Got to ask, what's the plan, Frances, when the novelty and excitement lapses and the grueling demands of building community kick in? Lucky bugger having a partner in crime. Really, really good question.
Cheers, Chris. Thanks for pissing all over it. Classic. Obviously, so every night at a certain point in the day, when the children have just gone down and I'm really tired, and I reach for a glass of wine, even though I said to myself I was going to do a yoga class or something even more energetic, but I can't be bothered. That's when I start thinking, and I share that with Simon. We often have, so the lovely thing about having a business partner who you can be really honest with is that you can be really honest with them about things like, what are we doing? when are we going to make any money? This is a complete, what are we thinking of? And like, we're going through all that. And what we really try and ground every day is that we're going through that at exactly the same time as a lot of the people that we're trying to serve. So, you know, let's bring this right back to you, Gary, and the idea of vulnerability, authenticity. These words are all a bit problematic and can throw up all sorts of things. So we don't have time to go into what do we actually mean by being vulnerable, authentic, honest, all those things. And I know some people here have views on which is the most useful word, you know, truthful, sincere. But the point is, it's like, how, as you said, how can you be okay with living through what it is that you're trying to tell people they might like to think about doing? And we're living through that right now. We're living through what happens when we've only got 5 members, 10 members, 20 members, 50 members. What if it even gets too big and we can't contain it? And we just don't know. So it's going to emerge. And, you know, how have we priced it? How will the pricing change? We've priced it in a way that reflects that we need stuff back from members. So we want members. So we've priced it accordingly so that we can have people be in the community in the first instance. But a bit like niching, we're not saying that's regimental, that's stuck in stone for the rest of ever. It's all going to emerge. So to Chris's question, I'm not sure right now. So I'll just keep going with the energy, see what happens. The worst case scenario is it's a complete disaster, and then we'll move on to something else and we'll learn from it and we'll have had fun. So what can I say?
And I think it's a lovely way to wrap up there. And I think what you've brought brilliantly for me towards it as we're wrapping this up is, what is emergence if it's not vulnerability in action? Like the ability to make a decision, such as set up the community without knowing what the next step's going to be, or how many members you'll have, or what people are going to like and dislike. Like that courage stroke vulnerability is so closely linked. And again, what I love about what you're doing, Francis, is you are modeling the services that you're trying to offer to your clients. And I think you are embodying, back to that point, yeah, you're embodying the change you want to see. I know, very Gandhi-esque, very grandiose, but I mean it. Like, you are literally, I think this last 40 minutes, you've totally embodied how you've asked me questions. You've put it back onto me. You have been very generous. Like, just love you, Francis. Honestly, you're just an amazing human. And I genuinely wish you and Simon every luck with this new venture. I'm pretty sure it's going to do well. But you've got a big supporter in me, and I will genuinely personally go and check it out, because I really love how you're structuring it. And I would say, Chris, for me, I think the way I'll answer your question a bit for me as a third party, the structure you've got, I think, is what's going to give you the longevity. There's enough structure that people know what they're getting, but it's not so rigid that they know what's coming.
Love that.
So that for me, I think, is what's going to, that's the potential power in what you've done.
Oh, Gary.
Yeah.
You're fabulous.
You're more fabulous. And Zaina, who said that? Emergence is vulnerability in action. Did I say that? How cool.
Yes. Quick. Trademark it.
Thank you for capturing that, Zaina. That actually sounds quite good, doesn't it? Who said that?
And Zina, I'll reflect back to you that your abilities are being able to listen and pick out very important phrases which can be used as the headline for the entire conversation. That's your skill. Well done.
So final little bit, just so it gets on the recording, betterbolderbraver.com, and there is Francis's LinkedIn. So Francis, thank you again for all you're doing. Good luck with the family and your businesses and being a mum and having the week to go into. And I'm now going to go and see one of my suppliers for the first time in 18 months for lunch.
And I hope you're much, but how much more energized are you, right? Isn't that meeting going to go so much better? Is it?
It 100% is. Hey, Quinn, thank you for listening, my friend. So Quinn joined us, and also Zaina saying thank you, Francis. So wishing everybody a safe Monday, enjoyable week ahead, whatever your time zone is. And Francis, there's a big virtual hug, and I can't wait to meet you in person at some point. Still haven't done that yet.
Love it. I
Take
know.
care.
Thanks,
Take
Gary.
care, everybody.